council meeting for November 10th. And of course, we start that with a call to order, roll call, invocation, pledge, and item number 1 is the approval of the agenda. Any additional items or corrections on the agenda as it's written?
None.
Okay, seeing none, we'll go on to the next item, which is the city manager's report. Mr. Patuchik, you have anything you want to share with us in addition to what you can tell us on Thursday?
Well, by the time I see you Thursday, I'll have attended a JPA meeting for CCOM, so I'll give you an update as to what is going on there. Of course, the focus is staffing. But David handed me the September sales tax numbers this morning, and I'm pleased to report that we're running 9.9% above, so those numbers are still running very strong for us, and about 8.8 year-to-date over and above. Retail sales up 8.24, and a lot of strength in the other categories, so a very good report for us.
Any questions for Mr. Patuchik?
No, sir, it's just good to hear.
Seeing none, we'll go on to new business, and of course, the item number 2 would be the possible action of the council meeting minutes. Anything in the minutes that need to be changed, adjusted, commented on? For that time period, okay. Item number 3 is the authorization to accept Arizona Department of Emergency and Military Affairs funding. Chief Thrasher.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. The resolution before you is to accept funding from Arizona Department of Emergency and Military Affairs in the amount of $350,000 to upgrade our VHF radio system. This is part of border security funds. The VHF system is the backup radio system for the police department and the primary radio system for the fire department. So this allows us to have critical redundancy in the police department in terms of dealing with especially communicating with the sheriff's office and the fire department during critical incidences and certain instances like the pursuits that we've been having more recently. I'd be happy to accept that to answer any questions.
Questions for the chief?
Just comment, sir.
You got a comment?
No, I think it's a good thing. It's plus anytime we get money back, it's always a good thing, so.
Yeah, thank you, chief. And then we go on to item number 4. And that's the discussion of agreement with Patagonia High School to provide CDL training exams. And that's Ms. Kirkpatrick.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So the city has on staff a gentleman, Bob Butterworth, who is certified with the Department of Transportation, DOT, to actually to provide the licensure, the CDL licensure, Class A and B. It meets all the requirements for the state DMV. So we've been doing that internally since 2013. It's given us a phenomenal advantage to hire. And a couple years back, we've actually been started offering that to external agencies as well. That certification is not specific to the city, it's specific to the individual. So he's been providing that on behalf of other government agencies. This IGA allows us to do that also for Patagonia. We are doing it currently for 5 other external agencies.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Yes, sir.
Yes, my only question on this was, I did some research with regards to testing fees outside in the commercial area, and yours is right in line on the initial fee for $150, but allowing an employee 3 attempts at no additional charge.
Yeah.
That seems a bit off to me. I'm a little uncomfortable with that. Maybe once, but 3 times? Study harder or something, I don't know.
Well, the question I would ask is, what do we do for our own employees, and is it the same?
It generally is the same, Mayor. So the way that it works is we do not administer the written test. So that's a $25 fee paid to the MVD, and that is something that they're responsible for. Internally, we provide for that. We also provide for the CDL DOT physical. We also recently, the mandate came down from DOT that there's 16 hours minimum of classroom training. We are providing that to our team as well, and that is something that we will be providing to the external agencies, because there is requirements and mandates about who can do that and who cannot do that. There's also the training and the tutoring on the pre and the post trip, how you actually go about getting inside the vehicle, or go about legally doing your inspections. So we have been up until this point been helping teach the teacher type of a thing. So we're not on the hook for the time and effort it takes to do that work. So all we're really doing at this point is opening up for the 16 hours of classroom time, and then we do the road test, and the road test is where they actually get their test, or where they get their CDL endorsement on their license. We do provide that. Honestly, internally, we do it until you pass. It's easier for us to know where the shortcomings are with our staff because we're intimately involved day to day with our staff. So we are a little bit better to provide that. We've not had to date, Councilmember, anybody who has abused that 3 strikes type of a situation.
Okay.
Not saying that it wouldn't happen, but for an external agency to pay that money, I would imagine they'd want to make sure that their person is properly able to pass that test.
Thank you.
Okay.
I just had a comment. You kind of hit it where you said they train. So I was asking if Mr. Butterworth does any train the trainer for those external agencies. They can kind of start their own programs. Obviously, it's good. Is he the same one that trains the school district here? She was a school district as well? Great. So, Mr. Butterworth, hats off to you. Thank you for spreading the love on CDLs, which you're very, very short of all around. So it's very much needed. So, yeah, thank you to Mr. Butterworth.
Okay. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We're training him also, he's just testing him. Is he providing training to any of those agencies, or is he just providing the exam for the CDL?
Mayor Mule and Councilmember Benning, so as of this year, he's providing 16 hours of classroom training. That's a new mandate that was passed down from the DOT. So we are providing that now. That is new. He is providing train the trainer on the inspection process. So when the individual applicant is doing their pre and post trip, we're not doing that. That is something that's being done at the individual agency. They're coming in for the 16 hours and the testing only at this time. We've been flexible in allowing Mr. Butterworth to go to those agencies and train the trainer, but to my knowledge, we have not issued a fee. We've not attached a fee to that. It's been more of a community, an outreach type of a thing.
You read my mind, because in reality, that 16 hours of training costs more than $150 of testing, because we're paying his salary while he's going to Patagonia or them other agencies to do those hours. So it's kind of, what are we getting out of this? And I understand, I mean, I'm glad what he's doing and what he's providing, but we're paying for those agencies to have that training. What are we getting in return is my biggest question.
Not much.
So, Mayor, council members, my reaction to that is we are reinforcing the local workforce and we're putting people to work.
Okay.
There is something to be said, even though it may not be a monetary return. There's something to be said for helping the smaller communities as well.
I agree.
And looking at the areas more than just Sierra Vista against the world, but
Yes, sir.
the fact that we can in fact help out smaller communities. And we've done that in the past with sharing fire training and police training and all those other kind of things too. So this is not a one-time shot. Sir.
In my research, these were commercial enterprises that merely did testing on the road and the written test for $150.
Yeah.
And if you failed it the first time, you had to pay another $150. And if you failed it that time, you had to take another $150. I did not know that from the documents that were given to us that we were providing 16 hours of training in addition to the testing. So I think they're getting a hell of a deal. That's all I can
They're
say.
getting a deal, there's no doubt about it.
And as Mr. Benning brought up, we're still paying Mr. Butterworth to do his job while he's bringing in very little revenue on the revenue side. So, I don't know.
Mr. Patucci.
Yes, Mayor Mueller, members of the council, I believe this is a loss leader, but how many people are we talking about, Chanel, in the course of a year, let's say?
Mr. Puka, I wasn't prepared for that. I'd have to go back with Bob and I can have that number by Thursday.
10, 20?
Maybe, if that, over a year. I wouldn't even say it's that much. He's trained a couple hundred people since 2013, but the majority of that has been with us. And I will say, Mayor and Council, that of the 6 people, including Patagonia, of the 6 agencies that are utilizing this service, I think 5 are school districts. And I want to believe the other one, it might be Cochise County. I'm not certain on that 5th one. I'd have to go look at the list.
If you could get that number for
I
me.
absolutely, I will have that for you guys on Thursday.
Okay, appreciate it.
Any other comments or questions?
No, sir, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Thank you very much. That will conclude what looks to be a short meeting with the call of the public comments for request for council. We'll now go on to, let me turn the page here. Item 2B on today's agenda, which is the discussion of boards and commissions. Mr. Patucci.
Thank you, Mayor Mueller, members of the council. As you're aware, you recently discussed a work session, boards and commissions, with an eye towards potential changes, and it was a very, very good discussion there. So we took that back to staff and tried to brainstorm as to how we might be able to organize that for you and just give you a proposal to talk about. So the memo you have before you dated November 4th is just that, a proposal, and of course is open to any changes that council wishes to make. What we used was the framework of the general plan as we discussed at the meeting. So your memo has 2 columns on it, the proposed commissions and then the general plan areas that they cover. There are 2 commissions that don't fit neatly into this model, and that includes disability issues and the youth commission. And since they're highly specialized in terms of their nature, so the determination was to leave those alone in this recommendation as they stand right now. So I'll just briefly go through them. You have economic development and tourism. Currently, those are 2 commissions, and they hit 3 general plan areas, and we're proposing combining that into 1. Then we are proposing a transportation commission, which includes the current airport commission, but we also added streets, bicycle and pedestrian transportation, and transit to that as well. And that hits General Plan Area 3 for transportation and circulation. We're proposing a neighborhood commission, which would be an expansion of the current West End commission, given the community has grown. We have a number of neighborhoods that probably would like some attention, or at least a closer look and participation. So that's an eye towards looking in the future, and those hit general planned areas 12 and 13 for housing and neighborhoods and redevelopment and infill development. So environmental stewardship pretty much speaks for itself, and that's currently the Environmental Affairs Commission. It's not 3 general plan areas. Parks and recreation pretty much remains the same, and that hits the public facilities and services general plan areas. Arts, humanities, and cultural diversity would include both the current Arts and Humanities and the Cultural Diversity Commission, hitting General Plan Area 16. So there would be a total of 8 commissions proposed if you include those with disability and youth. And then on the back of the memo, we talked about what the missions might be to try to make them a little more relevant to those who might want to volunteer to participate. And on there, we have making recommendations to council on the general plan process, which we're currently engaged in, making recommendations to the council on the strategic planning goals and objectives, which of course will be coming up this spring. making recommendations to council on major projects and initiatives related to the commissions that the council may want to gain input on. Conduct research on proposals relative to the commission's focus areas. Receive staff updates on progress regarding relative general plan and strategic plan goals. And then I forgot to add one to the bullet here, but gaining public input on specific projects or objectives within the specific plan areas. So that would be another one, and I'm sure there's others that we can come up with. So we just bring this before you for discussion, and if we're way off in terms of what we're doing here, we'll go back to the drawing board. So
Okay, before I open it up for discussion, Chuck, I'm gonna just mention that the Planning and Zoning Commission is not listed here, and that's primarily because they're a regulatory commission that we're required to have by law.
yeah, so that's
However-
found in statute. Yes.
However, what I want to comment on is when we look at the general plan elements, there is some overlap here. For example, cost of development, redevelopment and development, housing and neighborhoods are all part of the P and Z mission. But I would think that they would be more focused on the regulatory parts of that mission rather than the more general plan.
Yeah, I would be looking at
Parts.
safety,
Well, to me, and that would
property
my-
maintenance.
That would be my other comment. You list safety as for Parks and Rec, which obviously is important in our Parks and Recreation, but safety is something that all the commissions should be really
As well as
focused
citizen
on,
participation.
as well as citizen participation. So,
Yeah.
but that's why this.
I would envision hopefully people from different neighborhoods participating that could bring or take a look specifically at neighborhoods and what neighborhood issues there might be. It could range from infrastructure to safety to access to, a wide variety of things.
Okay.
Property maintenance, those kind of things.
All right, so I'm gonna shut my mouth and we'll hear from council here. Comments?
So then,
Yes, ma'am.
we would, am I still? At least a couple more months. So then, instead of reporting the staff, they would report the council. It would
I
be
should have
back-
mentioned
That
that,
was gonna be
yes.
my question.
Yes,
so.
I would envision that it would revert back to council appointment, yes. Mhm.
And that makes sense to me because after our last work session, and maybe you made the comment, somebody said because staff is responsible for what's happening, the operations, and we're more of the vision side of
You're
things,
the policy
strategic,
side
and it
of
makes
that.
sense that the public citizen input would, so that realignment back to the way it was makes sense.
I think it would give them a better feeling that the council too was more involved, and we would have council liaisons, et cetera.
Right.
as well. So,
And then also, so for transportation, would that include the Transportation Advisory Committee that used to meet quarterly?
yeah, that could fold into
Yes.
that as well.
Okay,
yes.
great. And then, so you have Parks and Rec down there, but is it changing at all? I don't see how that's changing like the other ones.
We're really not envisioning that changing. The interesting part there was the area, we have 4 areas there, public facilities and services, and that's a pretty broad thing. You're talking about buildings, you're talking about ball fields, you're talking parks, a lot of different things. So, we just felt it was better to leave it as Parks and Recreation. Because obviously council's going to make any decisions regarding new facilities and those kind of things because of the costs involved. But that doesn't preclude them from making recommendations about them.
Okay. And so it's on this list because Cody and youth are going to still report to staff?
No, they
Okay,
would still be
so what?
commissions. They would be regular commissions like the rest of them.
Okay, but if nothing's changing about Parks and Rec, am I missing something?
Not
Is there a
really.
reason?
No, we're not really envisioning
Okay.
changes.
Maybe
there.
I'm thinking
Unless
too much
you
about
are.
it. Okay. Well, thank you. Maybe I'm just. we will listen to what the discussion says, and then I'll see if they.
Mr. Johnson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was in the hotel business for over 30 years, and I also served on an economic development commission in Des Plaines, Illinois. And combining the two doesn't make much sense to me. I look at our tourism, and what we're focusing on is mountain climbing, biking, hiking, all of these outdoor recreational things as far as, that's what we provide as far as tourism. Yeah, come and see Tombstone, they'll have a shootout in the middle of the street. But I don't see the purpose of combining Economic Development Commission, which we just launched, and I don't even know who the members are yet, with tourism. I think if anything, they should be separate, or in the alternative, because Parks and Rec have such a great impact financially and as far as activities in our city, I think they possibly could be part of that tourism piece. Now, I don't know I don't serve on the Tourism Commission here currently, and I don't know what they do, if they even meet, and what items are they focused on. But it doesn't seem to me that it would be compatible with economic development. To me, economic development and the efforts that Tony Boone makes is trying to get businesses to come here, not to create a bike path or something of that nature. So I don't understand that one. Second of all, when we talk about transportation, you have two members here on the dais that are board members of the Sierra Vista MPO, and that has to do with transportation, transit. Those meetings are public too, so I can see where the transportation could possibly work with the SVMPO, because we have a time, Ms. Chairman, right? We have a time for public input
Sure
during
do.
those meetings, and I can see where a transportation commission could attend, make recommendations to the Sierra Vista Metropolitan Planning Organization.
Well, I gotta step back there. I don't think that's their purpose. Their purpose is to make recommendations to us as a city.
I agree.
And the city staff then goes to the MPO and say, here's the city plan,
Okay.
based on input from this other group. So
Okay.
I see a little different structure and steps and way where things are recommended.
Okay.
But yes, they should be playing a role.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor, right now.
Mr. Mayor, just to respond to Councilman Johnson's concerns primarily on the Tourism Commission, we are having difficulty getting volunteers for that commission. So to be honest, we're looking for we're looking for a home for them. So we're not married to that recommendation.
Okay,
All right.
thank you, Chuck. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't mind taking tourism and moving them on to Parks and Rec. I think it kind of has a home.
Smile, Laura.
Of course, I hate you, William, but no. And I think everything, it goes back to, I think, like tourism, I think it falls to transportation tourism. If we don't have good streets, people ain't gonna come visit. So I think it has a place everywhere, but we'll find it a good home. My concern, going back to our current structure, for instance, I'll use the West End. Field, five members, field, we're allowed 5. Now we go to neighborhoods. Are we gonna look at the number of commissioners per commission that we can have? And then I'd also like to see if we could retake a look at how long a commissioner can serve, because we're losing good commissioners because they're terming out. And we don't have a backfill because people aren't backfilling. They're coming in and they're being participants, but they're not on the commission. So I'd like to see, especially like the neighborhoods, if we're going from the West End to a neighborhoods commission, well, what if we up the commission members from 5 to 7 to maybe 10, depending on the commission in of itself? For instance, transportation. Airport commission's packed, but now we want to bring people in that understand streets or concerns of the streets. Where would they fit in that 5-member? We're already filled with people that focus on the airport. So I'd like to see those numbers shift or change. So because we are combining a lot, let's bring all them different people in and have more commissioners on each commission to facilitate, hey, transportation does with airport streets, bike protection paths, transit, whatnot, so we can get more members involved and get more community members on those commissions. And I know right now it's hard to fill commissions, but I think the steps we're taking with combining them, moving them, and joining them to the general plan helps. But now it's up to us to take back the commissions as a liaison and recruit, whether it's us or staff for that section, and get those bodies in the seats that we need to hear from the community more. But I think sticking with the 5 commissioners is hard right now.
Well, one of the, I just want to address, before I turn it over to Mr. Patuchik for comment, I just want to address one thing on the Airport Commission. Really, the Airport Commission, they've done a great job.
Agreed.
Don't get me wrong. But really, the time they're really needed is when we do the 10-year plan.
Yes, sir.
And what I would see is the folks that do the 10-year plan need to be coming from the Pilots Association, which is already out there, so that we can have people that are responsible to the users that are sitting on the board talking about the 10-year plan. So I don't really see a need for 5 members of an airport commission, even though they're enthusiastic, to be the transportation committee. I really think that there needs to be more than just pilots.
Sir, I agree.
And we have people that are involved in transportation already, as Greg has mentioned. So I think that may be a workable solution. Chuck?
Mayor Mueller, members of the council, I could see, if these commissions are certainly, more meaningful, hopefully to the people who want to volunteer to serve on them, that, expanding it back to 7 or whatever would make total sense to me. Also, the term limit thing, I think we do need to take a look at that. If my memory serves me correctly, that was implemented back a ways. And I think it was mostly because we had folks that they were like lifetime appointees on a commission, and they were interested, specifically in that, area. So they had a special interest in that and would just stay on. So I think that's why council changed it at the time. But I don't really see that as a big issue anymore. And, maybe term limits are okay, but they could be expanded, I think, without, too much problem.
And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that the thing is you can have 3 2-year appointments before you have to sit out a year.
Yes, sir.
Yes. That's how it
I think
goes.
I personally think that's reasonable.
Is part of this suggestion to have a designated council person for each one of these commissions? Is that part of?
We would go back to that system.
Okay, because I think that's important.
I do too.
It gives the commission more credibility. It gives them a direct link to a member of the city council. And, we can say, hey, we're overstepping our bounds here, or that's a great idea. So I think that is a real positive in this suggestion, Chuck. Thank you.
Yes, Marta.
Thanks,
Set
Mr.
of new
Mayor.
highs.
On the general plan elements for the arts and humanity and cultural diversity, that's just going to have to add cultural diversity, because right now in that whole thing, it's just speaking about the arts and, how to put that forward. And so my other question was going to be, I guess, Chuck, is if we're tying these commissions to the general plan, is that going to help some of these commissions get some funding?
Well, I think what we need to do, and we've talked about this with regards to special events and those kind of things, you have a very few number of events that are sanctioned by the council as a whole. A lot of your commissions in the past have been, trying to do events or have been associated with events. So we have, and those things are budgeted for, Oktoberfest, that kind of thing, 4th of July. So the commissions themselves do not have a budget per se right now. So, and that's totally up to the council whether you want to see a commission have a budget. And I think it would probably depend on what activity they were involved in, whether they needed the funding or not. So,
And I think that's a key point, Chuck, is I would be very uncomfortable if we said the P and Z gets X amount of dollars to operate themselves, or this commission or that commission gets X amount of dollars to operate themselves. Because really, I think the better way to do it is the way we're doing it now, where we say, if we're gonna have the Mayor's Arts Awards, well, the Parks and Leisure Director knows it's gonna cost so much, and she can manage the money and make sure that it's available to buy whatever they need. And it's the same thing with if we're scheduling events for other commissions, we need to come up with a budget and have it in the budget, and it needs to be professionally managed by whatever department is the sponsor for each one of those, because that way we have better fiscal control over the funds, and any profits, of course, come back to the city if there are profits, and that doesn't necessarily say we don't operate to break even sometimes, but that management should not be, the management of that money should not be in the hands of essentially a volunteer board.
I agree.
Correct.
And Mr. Mayor, I do agree with that. The other thing too is a commissioner is not a bonded person, and a city employee is. So certainly, while I don't oppose if the council wants to allocate funding for a commission for projects or things that they are engaged in, it still should be found within a department under a department head's stewardship as part of the budget process.
I agree. Whether it's O&M or a special fund line or D line.
Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do agree that, we are losing people that are getting termed out. I do agree with that. If there's room for them, if it's not, if there's nobody chomping at the bit to get their position, then especially in that case, why not let them stay longer? Especially like I said, we're losing that experience, I think, in some commission. Budget, just talking about youth commission, a few things about that. Just been trying to get this together for the youth side of things. So hard to get but we're trying to do a day, and I'm okay with doing that one every month. And I know it's different than everybody else because of the school year. And then we have summer, so it's not like a regular thing. So I'm okay with doing that one every month, and I'll be there every month. From what I'm getting, the feedback that I've talked to people, probably Tuesday, like the fourth Tuesday of the month in the evening time. I know we got to get it for somewhere that's open at that time and things like that, public meeting location. But Miss Penny and Miss Chatham are helping with that. But when it comes to the budget, like so for instance, like most of the youth stuff that we kind of envisioned and talked about so far, just a lot of projects. But then there is some things like a youth car show, and they're like, hey, mention like prizes, kids love prizes, right? So things like gift cards, right? Where that money come from to get those prizes out there. You have to request it from a certain, or I know it's not budgeted for right now, but then who would that come from?
Well, the thing is, what the youth commission, as being a unique commission, if they want to do certain projects, whether they're for charity or for other reasons to get more youth involved in the community, there's a lot of ways they can help fund that. The city certainly can help fund that, but you didn't need to talk with the director of Parks and Leisure.
I'll make sure
Make sure that we're doing things legally.
Yes.
And that we're using public funds properly.
Oh, of course.
But I mean, I know the kids are going to come up with some great ideas if they haven't already.
They are.
And the other expense is, of course, when the League of Cities has their youth day, we need to be represented
Get them
as
with
well.
us up to feeding. That
And
was my next point.
That's
yeah.
going to be an embedded cost.
Okay,
So
right on. That's all I have. And I will get with the director of Parks and Fun.
and fun, Karen. So what I'm hearing is we're generally okay with what Chuck is suggesting. So Chuck, what are the next steps?
Well, Mr. Mayor, what we'll do then is we will incorporate this in a policy document and memo for your adoption. And what we'll do is we'll also fill in the particulars in terms of terms, expanding the size of the commissions, and all the other relevant things you guys discussed here today.
And that's gonna include a review of what's already on the books for each one of the commissions to include their missions, because the way we've authorized in the past is it's been one authorization document that says this is the library commission, and here's the things that the library commission has authorized, and they're gonna meet on the third Tuesday or whatever it is, and there's a whole litany of that, and there's one of those that Jill prepares for each one of the commissions that's in their commission book, so they know what their mission is. Or how are we gonna do all the?
We'll have to
follow-up?
review that and then probably attach them as appendix, and I would imagine this would find its way into the council handbook. I think
Yeah,
would be
but it's gonna
the
have to
best
come
place.
back to the council, obviously, for approval for each of the commissions again, since we're.
Well, hopefully we would do it
We're
all at
changing,
once.
we're changing and rescinding all the other appointments.
Yeah, but we'll try to do that all at once if we can.
Okay, so it's gonna be a bit of an effort. is
Yes,
what I guess
there's
that's
still
what
some
I'm
work
getting
to do.
at. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Real quick, Mr. Mayor, just to add before they get back and start doing a lot of work. For the term limits, I don't mind term limits, and what you say makes sense. Maybe if we could get a stipulation there where a per case waiver where ex-commissioner wants to stay on even though they termed out, they fill out a waiver form, it comes before council on a case-by-case basis, then we still keep our term limits.
Yeah, I don't think anybody would have a problem with, on a case-by-case basis, approving a waiver for term limits.
No.
Okay.
Especially if maybe have the current commissioners recommend that, because it's usually they're wishing that person would stay.
Yeah.
The commissioners themselves, the
commission
commission
needed-
themselves,
Yeah, they need to make the recommendation.
And also, Ms. Mesmer brings up a good point on the cultural diversity. We're going to have to massage and change that language some to, we have cultural activities, but that's not really cultural diversity. So that'll need to be changed a little bit too.
Any other further discussion on this item?
Sir,
You got any
like it.
questions? You know where you're going?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you very much for the good discussion. We now move on to item C. It's a report of recent trips, meetings, and future meetings. It's going to be the holidays, not a lot of meetings going on. Anybody got anything there? Okay.
We had the Mac lunch, that was a meeting.
Yeah, the Mac lunch went very well. Celebrate Veterans Day. It went very well. And of course, we got Veterans Day coming up very shortly.
Yes, sir, at the end of the week.
So I hope to see you all there. Future discussion items and council requests. Victoria, have you got anything for us to discuss in the next couple work sessions?
Besides the board and commission resolution update, Mr. Mayor, I'm not tracking anything for your work sessions, although I did want to make you aware of two things that are coming up regarding future meetings. We're tentatively scheduling the canvassing for November 17th, that's next Thursday. And then I'm also going to be working on scheduling a meeting through Tri-Advocates with our state legislators in December to talk about the upcoming session. So you'll all be notified of those when we get closer to having some dates.
Sir?
I just want to reiterate the discussions I like to have that I brought up the last work session about, and that way we can make sure we're tracking the 501c3 at a work session like we used to do, and then a business of the
You're
business
talking about
of the month.
recognition of business of the month
Yes, sir.
and or a 50.
Or 501c at the work session, a business at the council meeting,
Okay, well.
if we can discuss it. So that's
Well,
why-
we need to put that on for the next work session. There's some inherent issues with that, and one is who's gonna manage the program, because you're talking two separate programs.
Yes, sir.
And then who actually is making the recommendation. And I don't think, I personally don't feel, and I have felt for a while, it's not appropriate for unless somebody's done something really outstanding, it's not appropriate for a council member or the mayor to say, this is the business of the month. We need to figure out a system, if you want to do that, so that it comes from the people, or it comes from the commissions, or it comes from the staff, or it comes from somebody else, and then it's gotta be on a consistent basis. That's the other problem we have is we'll do that for 1 month, and then next month, I don't know whether they forgot about it or whether there wasn't anybody available. Then another month later, we have somebody else come up.
Oh, I
and
agree,
It goes
Mr.
for a couple
Mayor.
of months, and then all of a sudden, we're not doing it again. So if we're gonna have a program, we need to establish it, is my point. And we need to have somebody responsible to do that on a regular basis if.
And that's
the
why I want to
council-
get it on the work session.
If the council agrees with it. And I didn't mean to discuss all this, but
Just
comment.
the commissions, a few of the commissions used to come up with, they used to have applicants and we board businesses and we highlight them for different achievements in, for Cody would do one, Environmental Affairs Commission would do one, and there was another. But maybe that's something the commissions could be tested, if this
Exactly,
is
and that's why I
something
wanna have a
that-
We gotta-
discussion on
My
it.
whole point is we have to have a
Yeah.
regularized program so it
Yeah.
looks consistent and fair to everybody.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or just another idea, maybe everybody on the council has a nomination they put in and we all look at them and then decide, hey, this month, this business or this one meets threshold, whatever that threshold is, that stands out. Then just get that, okay, that's one we're gonna go with this month. The commissions is another idea, I like that as well. Or, like you said, it has to come from the people.
I agree.
But, from those people, from those engagement, from those talking to the people, we have our own, people that we're gonna nominate. Hey, here's what I've been hearing, out in the streets, and we'll nominate this business for that reason, and then talk about it before it gets any further.
And this is why I want to get on a work session, so we can discuss.
Well, we can certainly do that, but I'm saying there needs to be a program organized to do that. And to me, it sounds like a great idea for the next mayor to give to the mayor pro tem.
Yes, sir.
With that,
I like that, Mr. Mayor.
With that,
It sounds like a December problem.
December, January,
Jim.
January first work session, we'll do good.
Okay. So,
Thanks,
any
Mr.
other
Mayor.
comments or requests to council?
No, sir.
Okay.
Honestly, that's surprised that's the first time you've said that, so.
I know, right?
Well, we only got two. We got two
On
meetings.
election day, he
We got
says
two
it.
meetings left. I mean, how much are you gonna be able to do? Chuck?
Nothing else.
Okay. Seeing nothing else before the council, I want to thank everybody for all their comments and good discussion. Meeting's adjourned.